what is Steel Sisters? For those of you who are joining us who don't know what Steel Sisters is and who we are, Steel Sisters is a group that I started a year ago, just over a year ago, the beginning of January last year. And the idea was to join women together, to have that connection with women. What I found with my life coaching, which I do, and I'm also a teacher, is that I found that there are many women who are looking for that connection, looking for that friendship, looking for that bond between another woman, between one another. We can talk to our husbands and our partners and our friends and all those things about certain things, but they don't understand what it's like for us as women when we talk about things such as menopause, or how we feel emotionally about something to do with our children, or something else with maybe with parents or with other family members. And when that's related to somebody who's sitting here in the group right now, you would all understand who I am and where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about. And I found that there was a huge need for this connection of women. So what we decided to do was I decided to form a group and call it Steel Sisters, meaning that connection, and steel meaning that we are strong, that we are very strong together. And the idea of the group is to educate, inspire, and inform one another, and to obviously get those connections going as well. And I'd love to hear of people connecting with one another. And we've got lots of different activities coming up in the future, which I will also be talking about shortly. So that is what Steel Sisters is all about. And if you aren't a member, please, we would love you to join us and become a member, because you will hear about all the different kinds of activities that are going to be taking place in the near future as well. So this is what I do. And I specifically chose women over the age of 50 because it's at the second chapter of their lives. And this is when people think that I've had with a lot of people who I've coached over the years talk about, oh, well, I'm getting old and I can't do the things I used to do. And it's just like, well, that's the way life is. But there is so much that we can do at this stage of our lives, the experience that we've got, the knowledge that we've got, the expertise that we've got, the wealth of understanding and compassion that we have for one another and for others. And this is a brilliant time to be able to look at what we're over that career stage. We're over birthing our children and our families. And it's now time for us to give to ourselves, which brings us to what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is, of course, the self-care and, of course, giving. So when we give to one another, what happens, and I'm sure that Seagal's going to talk a lot about this today, is about when we give to others, when we do volunteering or we give to our children or our families in different ways, or to our friends, we bring joy and purpose and a sense of belonging to ourselves. If you volunteer for an organization or for others, then of course you have the community as well. And that really helps us, that sharing, brings a deeper meaning to the way you look at life. And that's very, very important to our lives. But the hidden cost of giving, if we don't understand and we're constantly giving to one another and giving to others and not giving to ourselves, we are going to land up with emotional and physical burnout. And this is a very, very important part of how you've got to take care of yourself. It's a case of learning to have that balance and not overextending yourself and diminishing your energy, but also needing to help to continue helping others. So that's a vital point of it. But self-care replenishes when you can't give from an empty cup, as they say. So self-care replenishes your strength, it gives you focus, and it also replenishes your emotional capacity. It creates a sustainable foundation for meaningful contribution to others. And this is a vital, important part of it. Giving and self-care are not opposites, but they're actually partners. And taking care of yourself ensures that you can give your best by taking care of yourself. ensures that you're going to give your best to others without sacrificing your own well-being. But it's a case of having balance and making sure that you know where the balance is and what you need in order to be able to give to others. And that's the important thing. How do I do this? We're setting realistic boundaries and saying no when necessary, even though that is sometimes very hard to do. And sometimes we have to even say no to ourselves by not watching that movie until midnight or later if we can't function the next day if it's too late. This is very important. Setting realistic boundaries and saying no when is necessary, reflecting on your needs and knowing what you need to do in order to change, to recharge yourself, whichever that way may be. And you're giving to others, and it can be very deeply fulfilling, but it requires emotional resilience and balance. And I'm sure that Seagal's going to talk a lot about this. So there is a connection between helping others and recharging our own energy. But remember, self-care is not selfish. It is very, very important, and it's vital to our own well-being. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm now going to put us into breakout rooms. Vicky's going to put us into our breakout rooms. And the word for tonight that we're going to be talking about is giving of others and self-care. Welcome, Vivian.
Hi.
Well, I'm glad you've joined us. Okay, so Vicky, can you please put us into the breakout rooms? And just know that we're... So, ladies, welcome back. Okay. How was it?
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting questions, huh? And food for thought. Okay. Yes. Okay.
It was nice to meet Dawn.
Pardon?
It was nice to meet Dawn.
Oh, yeah. Great. Great.
Thank you. It was also nice to see that we have a common thread between us.
Oh, really? That's interesting. That was good. Okay. So, Vivian, at least Vanessa, you want to talk about what you got out of it? Just a little bit?
Me? Are you saying me?
Yes, you.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, it was really nice. I got it was nice to hear from Marianne, who's so involved in the community and volunteering, as well as Joanne. And she's also but it's not just a community. What was so nice with also Marianne was that we spoke about that she's with a 90-year-old woman living in the past, but is so excited to see Marianne. And it just brings so much joy, all about it's not just self-care, it's like finding that balance. I felt with Marianne when we were talking. And with Joanne, we started speaking about knitting and crocheting and making little blanket, pieces of the blanket and putting them all together. I just think of winter and warmness, and it's so beautiful. And then we also spoke about Dawn. She has 5 kids. She's doing so well. And guess what? Her kids and her husband are looking after her whilst she has flu.
So, yay. So somebody's taking care of her for a change. Good, Dawn. Glad you trained them well.
So it was beautiful, and it just made also me aware of what especially like with the war and how to give back, and and just looking at the difference between work and also how you spend, like what you do outside from work. Sure. And how much time do you spend outside from work with yourself?
Absolutely.
So I became aware of that just speaking with everyone as well.
That's wonderful. Anybody else want to give a feedback? Say something? Lisa? Seagal?
I mean, it was interesting just sharing the experiences that we've been having over the course of the year, in giving in our own way. And
Correct.
I said can't imagine another place, with a bunch of women just rising to give it in the way that they want, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I think and it's just very unique to Israel in particular, the way that we do.
Yeah.
Lisa,
No, it was just lovely meeting these lovely ladies. It was very
brilliant, brilliant.
a lot of things in common. It was very lovely. It was very
Brilliant.
nice.
Okay, and just for everybody's information, Lisa is our next guest speaker at the end of February.
Oh, nice.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing her talk as well. So Lisa, a huge thank you in advance. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to give anything? Dawn, you haven't, the first time you're on? No, you don't want to? Okay, fine. Heidi, Marianne, anybody, Joanne? No? Okay.
Well, I'm just appreciative of the fact that this is a community of women. I think it was great. I went with Seagal last week, and I think it's great for women to show up and do something together. It's a very different bonding experience than doing it on, let's say, the tour with couples and stuff. You get more empowered and feel the love more with women around and feel each other's toughness.
Vivian, you've put it beautifully, and that's exactly what I love doing. And that's why I'm an empowerment coach for women. And can I hire you as a content writer for me, please? Because you
I'm not a good writer. I can speak though, but not for so long.
Right, we have to be in touch because I love the way you put that across, and it's just so beautiful, and it just really resonates. It's exactly what Steel Sisters is all about, and really, and it's just that connection of joining together and being together, and being able to share and give, and whichever way it is, even if it's just giving just a listening ear, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean to say actually giving of your time or giving money or giving anything else, but just being able to give, I think, is a huge, huge factor. And being able to share and connect, which I think is beautiful. So thank you so much for doing that. I really, really appreciate it. Where are you based?
Am I?
Yes.
I'm in Kfar
Saba. Okay. All right. Well, great. So I'm going to just put an announcement out here now that we are hoping that on the 9th of February, which is a Sunday morning, if you've got time, we are meeting face to face for coffee at Bleeker's bakery in the Renana Mall. And I purposely chose that because parking is free for us out of towners. And it's easy to get to, okay? So if you're available, we'd love to see you join us on Sunday, the 9th of February. I will be putting an announcement in the Facebook group and also in the WhatsApp group.
What
for Steel
time?
Sisters. It'll be from 10 to 12.
Okay.
Okay? So come and join us. Come and have a cup of coffee with us. No agenda. It's the only purpose of the meeting is to meet face to face, to get to know one another, to share experiences, and to build those connections. So, and I'd love to see as many of you join me as possible. All right? Okay. So I'm now going to introduce our guest speaker, Seagal. And Seagal has been giving a fortune this last year in so many ways. I'm going to let her take over, and the floor's yours, Seagal. Go ahead.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. Okay, so where can I start? I wrote some points down, made many trips to Israel during my life. And I always got to the airport, to that checkpoint, and they would say to me, "Why are you crying? You didn't even get there yet." When I was going through the not customs, but the ticket to turn in the tickets.
Right.
And I said, because I really just always wanted a one-way ticket. I know that this trip is going to end and I'm going to have to return back home, back to the States. And so 2019, fast forward, September of 2019, I had a late miscarriage
Mhm.
and suffered a lot from that. And it threw me on my face. And in March of 2020, COVID hit.
Oh, yeah. So you had the
And
double whammy.
double whammy. And I said to myself, if we don't go now, when are we going to go? And we got all our paperwork together. And at that time, I was 46 and got all the paperwork together, gave up the house, and had our interview and got our ticket for Israel. And we arrived to Israel. During this paperwork process, I found out that I was pregnant again with my fourth,
Wow.
a miracle baby. And everybody said, you're not going to go. Don't go, just stay here, stay put, get to the finish line, and then you could think about it. I'm like, listen, if anyone knows, you have no control over what's going on. You just have to keep walking. And so October 7th of 2020,
Oh,
October
wow.
7th, we
Yeah,
arrived in
amazing.
Israel. We arrived in Netanya and with three girls and me, I think I had delivered in March. Anyway, I was not so small. And no doctor here wanted to see me. I mean, you walk in the door at 46 pregnant, they changed my name to Amnio and I wasn't having it. I just said, I said, if God wants this, it'll happen. He's taken and he's given. So I surrendered to that and delivered a baby boy after three girls, March 15th of
Wow.
2021. And he's incredible. I had a bris on a marpesed. It doesn't get better in Netanya. And so day 8 of our COVID quarantine, we were told there was no placement for our 2 older girls in the local school. And that became our real bump in the road for the next 3 years, is that we committed to living in this location and our kids didn't really get their footing in Netanya because we were commuting to schools outside of the area for about 3 years. And they just said, wherever you land, that's where you meant to be, and you make that work. And so we did. We had a beautiful new shul that had opened up, and I became a big part of that community and getting that off the ground, and we made it. And then comes October 7th, 2023, and we have a big kiddush in our synagogue to celebrate our Aliyah anniversary. And I had just heard some things in the morning of what was happening down south, but nothing. It wasn't at that point. And being religious, you just don't hear that much. And we went to shul, and we were the only shul that day that wasn't closed down because we were located in a high school. So nobody really knew that we were. I think at that time we were fairly new. Nobody knew that the shul was existing, and so we have this kiddush. Up until October 6th, I was pretty sure that, and I was on Zillow, which is like the Yad Shtayim of America, like that we weren't going to stay. The school situation became very frustrating. I didn't know where I wanted to go back to, but I didn't want to be a failure on this Aliyah. So I didn't even get my container. It was still sitting in a storage unit in California. So for 3 years, our things sat in storage,
Wow.
and I just really wasn't ever sure. And then October 7th came, and we all know what happened. October 8th, I fought through probably thousands of people in the matnas to give blood that day. And I'm not a needle person at all. So, and I did it, and I was determined to do that. Couple days later, I became very vocal on Facebook about what was happening, how I felt about it. And I don't really have a memory about the first transaction, the first phone call, but I get this phone call that an army base is in need of 50 pairs of boots. So I go onto Facebook and I'm telling this story, and then I put out my Venmo. And sure enough, I raised the money within 45 minutes for these 50 pairs of boots.
Wow.
And I take my kids down to the army base and we deliver the boots. I call this shop in Beit Shemesh, everything's taken care of. And we go and we return home, and I get a phone call. I'm sorry, but you guys, everybody moved 90 pairs of boots off the truck. So there was an additional 40 that were not paid for, that were handed out. And I remember sitting on my couch. She says, don't get involved. We'll take care of it. We're going to go and get the boots back and return them back to the store. And it's about 5:36, and I've got 4 kids that need to eat dinner. And I'm sitting on the floor and they're eating. And I'm like, there's just no way that they're going to go back to these guys and to ask for these boots back. And she's telling me to stay out of it. And I'm like, that's not going to work. So I get on Facebook, and within 30 minutes through Venmo, I paid off, called the store and said, Ayal, here's the rest of the money. And then this girl calls me and says, I told you to stay out of it. And I said, well, I just couldn't think that you were going to actually take these boots back from these guys. And then started this fundraising campaign, grassroots fundraising campaign into Venmo out of my house. And I was taking requests every single day for vests, helmets. So one of the 2 earliest things I did was a gas tank that I drove down full to right outside of Kibbutz Be'eri. Solar panels, bags, generator, different parts for weapons. It's just been over the course of this entire year, and I'm still going. I make 2 trips south weekly. I speak to commanders on the phone, and they have submitted, and they tell me what they need. Right now, today, I'm no longer obviously with Venmo. I'm more formal. I have an Amutah affiliation and a 501c3 affiliation. And I do all my fundraising through social media, both Instagram and Facebook. And I have incredible donors, pretty much global donors from New York, New Jersey, from America, from the UK, from Canada, and from Israel. And it's been really unbelievable. And I have completely, I thought it was much worse with the self-care, but I really wrap myself up in everything. I am the sole fundraiser, and I do all my buying local here in Israel. I have about 4 vendors that I work with, and I don't deal with meches. I don't shop abroad. I did get one thing abroad, and I sat for 2 hours in meches. So I said, ever since then, I'm going to stay to shopping local. But it's what the craziest thing for me was just to see the impact of chesed. And I've always kind of been that person. I remember when there was a hurricane in Puerto Rico, and I had generators up in my driveway in New Jersey. So people that are close to me will kind of say, it doesn't shock me that you've done this. But I'm surprised that I am almost 14 months into this and still at it. There's no sense of time. Right after Shabbat goes out, the phone starts ringing. I don't know why I'm still surprised when I get a call at 10 o'clock at night. And it's just been mind-blowing. I'll do all my own buying and all my own deliveries. And just this past Thursday, I was down in Kerem Shalom and on the border to see all the trucks lined up. And it's a sight, bless our Chaylim because they really have paid the ultimate sacrifice. For me, I just feel like, there have been complete miracles as a result of doing good, which always reminds me like you are where you're supposed to be. You are where you need to be. And there's moments where I'm just like where I have the doubt, and then there's something crazy that happens that you can't even explain. And I had one moment early on where I had a box of uniforms that arrived in New York, and I needed them to get to Israel. And I posted it on a Facebook group, and this girl, Abby, says, you know what, I'll take care of it and get it to Israel. So she goes and she picks up the box and she repacks everything and she sends it with a passenger to Israel for me. She then calls me and she says, well, where did you get the uniforms? I need 2. I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of the 2 that need the uniforms. Fast forward, I get this 2,000, they call them kakisakis to go to the bathroom, plastic bags, and they come in from Amazon, and I'm 2 hours in customs trying to get this big duffel bag out, and I have no way of getting them out. This was about a 6-month difference from when I first met Abby to when I'm sitting in Meches. And the passenger who took the bag into Israel says, I'm going to call my friend and see if she knows anybody. In the end, the girl that took the bag was the same as the girl is best friends with the girl in New York who way back when sent all the uniforms for me. And it just so happened that the 2 uniforms that I got her as a thank you were for 2 guys in Meches, 2 IDF officers in Meches, who were basically like, oh, you're Seagal? Oh, you can take your bag. That was an hour and a half later. You can go.
Wow.
And like I remember sitting on the duffel and I just couldn't even I just stopped, because it was always this kind of thing happening, these kind of situations. So where am I now? I am with the Ari Fold project. And for those of you that don't know who Ari Fold was, he was murdered by a terrorist in Efrat on September 16th, 2018. And I didn't know him personally, but what I remember around that time, during that time, it was around Sukkot, and an artist made a Lion of Zion poster that I remember purchasing, and I put up in my sukkah every year. And so just recently, this opportunity rose for me to have an affiliation with him. And he is my platform. That organization is my platform for all of my donations. They accept my US and my Israel donations with tax deductions. And what else can I share? Just recently, I did a wellness event for IDF soldiers in Zikim on the Army base. It was sensational. We had yoga and sound therapy, chiropractic, Reiki, numerology. They had food that was sponsored by one of the junctions down south that served meals to soldiers. We had ice baths, and we just took care of them for about 5 hours. And hopefully we'll do another one of those events soon. It was actually free because so every provider just volunteered their time and showed up on the Army base. And so a lot of times I bring also donors down south. I had a woman from Netanya who baked bread and ended up buying 5 helmets. So I took her to the base where there's a rescue and recovery unit, and she gave over with her father. Her father came, he's 88 years old. So he came with us, gave over the helmets, and we put him in the back of an Army Jeep and took him for a ride. And he's still talking about that. And then I wanted to plan a women's trip south. And so last week I had the first trip down with 19 women. I called it an unguided tour because I'm not a licensed guide. But because of my trip south, I I built myself a family of a lot of people, whether they're in the army or just chesed doers, massage therapists, everybody from all walks of my life this whole entire year. And we went to Nativ Asara and Alumim Base, Reim, Takuma, and Shuva. And it was a really heavy, heavy day. But what came out of it for me was what was missing. And I do a lot of this work alone. And to be with other women and to be in this space with them and to be strong for one another. It was incredible. And so now I'm spending a little bit of time just thinking about, well, what else can we do together to remind ourselves that we aren't alone on this journey, and also to do also happier things in Israel and fall in love with why we're here, and remind ourselves why we made this choice to be here, especially now when it's just, I know for myself, I struggle with I know I'm home, but I also struggle with the decision I made and the fear of what the future looks like with what's happening most recently. But yeah, what else can I say? What else can I say? So
How
I'm
could
still
we
going,
get
still going strong.
how could we get involved in supporting you or doing things with you if those of anybody wanted to do that?
So, I mean, you're all welcome to join me. I'm gonna hopefully in the next week. I found out about a kibbutz, and I'm trying to also, while I'm still very much committed to the IDF, I know, the first thing you said was boundaries,
Right.
and I think that for my own mental health, that building a legacy and rebuilding the South. There's something that in that is strength and the future. One of the things that I did a couple months ago is we had 1,300 kids that returned to school in the OTEF along the Gaza border
Right.
in the Eshkol region. All of the security team there was missing optic sights for their weapons. So I raised $20,000 and armed 22 soldiers with optic sights for their guns. And they're on loan. They will be coming back to me, and then they'll go back the following school year. But it's just, and I had other Chaylim that would say, well, they're not fighting. Like, why would you spend money on that? And my reasoning was because they're the future of the South. If we don't make those families feel secure to drop their children off at school every day and walk away and go home and get stronger themselves since they return, then what does the future hold for these families? And so I'm very much in relationship with them. There are some other things that they do need. And so little by little, there's kind of like a little bit of I guess a pecking order. I can't just spoil them all the time. So as far as getting involved, like I love taking people down there, down south. And to go see the school. It's magnificent along the Eshkol area. They have a beautiful matnas with for the kids with what do they call it? Master chef room with all KitchenAid mixers. I mean, what they're doing down south, it's really incredible. And honestly, I am at peace when I'm down there, and it's incredible. So you're welcome to join me and be a part of this. I do have a donation link, and I vet every request. So I'm speaking to commanders, RASAPs, and unit heads, logistic heads, to make sure that that it's legitimate.
Mhm.
And then they'll send videos of thanks, and I'll make sure to send those back to donors. I just recently had a bat mitzvah here that came from New York, and They bought all this, they sent money and I prepared all these goodie bags and they went to barbecues and they were giving out knee pads and soft shell jackets and really spoiling the units that they had barbecues with. But I'm open to anything, open communication, and I'll do another trip somewhere. I was going to say that, part of this looking forward looking and legacy of the South is like, what was lost was also for these kibbutzim was I guess their revenue, like the money that's coming in. So kibbutz Erez lost all their bees and the hives and their, and essentially their business of making honey. So I'd like to get a group of women to go down there and hopefully, get inspired to help them raise money for some machinery that closes jars or labels jars, something like that. So that's becoming a little bit of my boundary setting. It's like, what can I do that feeds the soul, that has longevity? And
So if you think going forward, please God, in the near future, this war is going to be over.
Mhm.
Let me phrase it that way. Going forward, what is your plans for the future? Is it to help to continue building the South? Is it to work in the North? What is it to do? Is it to do something completely different?
I waver, I worry about myself a little bit because sometimes like you saw me when I first got on, I had two soldiers that had just called me after days of not hearing. So this is part of what comes with the turf is that I've built these relationships. And I feel it, like when I
Sure.
hear from them, I'm like, okay, this is going to be how many days of me feeling like, okay, everything's good until days get further and I feel like, is everybody okay? So I've taken a little bit more on than I need to. And what does the future hold? I mean, some days, I have some job offers with some of the vendors that I've worked with. I did start a small business, which I'm waiting to launch, where I'm doing these barn bat mitzvah barn bat mitzvah planning and just other ways to kind of turn this into a little bit of a business for me. But I don't know. I used to be a teacher in New York. I have a little bit of a dream to an itch to go south and become an English teacher or just kind of go back to what I've done, pre fundraising and have just a little bit more of a quiet life, a more peaceful life. This is very hectic. It's very um, emotionally taxing. I have 4 kids that still need me. I get it. They love this. They fight to come in the car with me and be a part of my trips down south. But at the same time, I think like it's
There has to be a limit to how much you can do.
yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. I understand that. I think it's incredible what you've done and what you are doing, and
Thank you.
really a huge kol hakavod to you and applause for you for what you are doing and how you are helping. I don't think others outside of Israel can really understand that there would be such a need for equipment for an army, which should be provided for by the government, if I can phrase it that way. You know what I mean?
Well, I really, I'm asked the question all the time, like, why don't they have what they need? Why is that your responsibility? And I try not to pay attention to it because I really see a valid need. And if this was, I say, if this is was my child, I would want them to have. And thank God my kids are still young and not in the army. But, I think what knocked me out for today was, to go down to Kerem Shalom and there's 24 Chayalim there on the border. 600 trucks are going through the border into Gaza, and they're not one of them had a helmet on. And they're doing 12 to 14-hour shifts. I mean, it's like sick, and I'm like, I have to stop repeating what I saw. But like, they're doing 14-hour shifts, and the helmets that they have are very old.
Mm.
And so they're not going to wear them.
And I
And-
think also, you know, I mean, I have a son who was in the army a number of years ago, but he unfortunately had to go back in for Meluim and has been doing Meluim all along. And I know that there are one or two others here who are on the call tonight who also have got children, sons-in-law who have been in the army now, well, Meluim. And I can totally understand where you're coming from. And as my son said to me at the time, he said, Mom, you know, they called us 300,000 Meluimniks at a time. How do you expect an army who wasn't expecting anything like that to all of a sudden
100%,
equip
yeah.
300,000 people? I mean, where does it supposed to come from?
No,
You know,
it's
they don't have
it's
that equipment in the country. You know, what are you going to do?
for
So
sure.
it's
Yeah.
totally makes sense what you are saying
Yes.
and why there is such a need for it. And I don't think that the army has even had a chance to recover from this before, you know, and people are still being called in for Meluim, and some haven't had a break. They've been doing Meluim for the last 14, 15 months. So, you know, it makes it very hard.
It is. And I think even, you know, I was able to, by the time I got home, I raised enough for 14 helmets. There's 28 and they're going to share 14. So, but I'm giving them on the condition that they come back. So they're signing them, they'll send them back and they're going to be in a warehouse down south to be used for the future. So, you know, trying to wean myself away from like buying for individual soldiers, but that they get kind of recycled for the future. What else? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I think that there must be an incredible sense of reward for giving the way you're doing. I mean, you know, and being able to give and to do what you are doing. I know that there have been, until you spoke about bar mitzvah trips. I went on a trip in March. I had family here from the States. And we did a trip down south with a tour guide, and she took us to Shuva. Do you want to explain what that is so that everybody understands where is Shuva and what
Absolutely.
it is?
Sure. So on the 7th of October, there's Kibbutz Shuva, and they turned into a that area into a triage where they were accepting the injured bodies, and that's, you know, an open field right there. And then the three brothers from Nativot went and put up a table, and they're giving just drinks and snacks to medics and IDF that were.
You're frozen, Seagal. Is it only me or is it Seagal? Everybody feeling it?
Yeah, no.
No, she's frozen.
She's
Okay.
frozen.
Got internet problems.
Yeah, probably. Okay. So I'll explain a little bit more about it while until she gets her internet sorted out. But what Shuva is, as she said, it's this place where these three brothers live. And on the 7th of October, they said, you know, soldiers are coming down, and it's just like last minute, we have to give them tea and coffee. And the wives then said, no, but you can't just give them tea and coffee, they're going to need food as well. And so they gave them, so they quickly rummaged through their fridges and asked the neighbors and anybody else who had food available to sandwiches of bread and whatever, cheese or whatever it was, and made up sandwiches to give to those who are coming down south and going into Gaza. And they have now developed it into the most amazing place where they've set up a tent literally outside as like a marquee, and they have like a little machzan, a little storeroom, and there the soldiers can go in there. They can get toiletries, they can get snacks, they can get toothpaste, they can get deodorant, shoelaces, any of these things, and be able to Sorry, Seagal's coming back in. There's obviously something with her internet. And they have, sorry. Okay. Yeah, you had an internet issue there.
Oh, I don't even know. Yeah, I looked at everybody in there.
Yeah, okay. So I was just explaining about Shuva and what it is that they do there. And also what they do is they have picnic tables there and you can go and volunteer. And the day that I went, there was a big tour had come on a tour bus, and the tour guide had brought these people around to actually volunteer. And what were we doing? We were making sandwiches. So somebody was cutting onions, somebody else was cutting rolls, somebody else was frying schnitzels, all sorts of things, so that you could help and make the sandwiches. And while we were there, we had one soldier who came in and said to my daughter who was with me, they said, we've come to get an order of 100 sandwiches. And I thought, whoa, what do they want 100 sandwiches for? And then he said, it's to take back to my unit in Gaza. So it made me feel good knowing that I had did a tiny little bit of help, whether it was just cutting the roll or cutting the onion, to give them those sandwiches and feed them for just that one sandwich. So I can imagine, Seagal, this is huge what you've done, and amazing. Anybody else got any questions? Anything you want to ask Seagal? Now's the time for you to ask.
She was talking about some of the miracle stories. I'd love to hear more of that.
You'll have to read the book.
Read the book.
It's crazy. You know, I had one instance where I had a balance on a purchase, and they gave me the balance in shekels, and when I translated it, it equaled 613.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, it's even just this past Friday, I had two boys that were driving here to pick up some protective glasses. And he was coming from Herzliya, and I had things that needed to pick up. You know, it's just, you know, or the way that things are getting, it's almost like a graceful orchestra. You know, and I remembered, oh, I had two pairs of boots in the shop in Herzliya. Why don't I see if he could go over there? He lives in Herzliya, pick up the boots before coming here to pick up what he's asked for. And he did it. I mean, he picked up the boots, came here, and he's talking. They took 4 pairs of glasses. And you know, sometimes I don't keep my mouth shut. So I was like, well, tell me about your helmets. And he says to me, he's like, well, I don't have one. And I said, okay, he's going from Sadir to Miluim. He's like, they don't know what they're going to get. So sometimes individual soldiers that, you know, just are really maybe just worried, like they don't know what they're going to get. What are they going to be handed? What kind of vest? What kind of helmet? So he says, he tells me he doesn't have a helmet. I said, forget it. I went into the trunk and I have 9 helmets sitting in the trunk, and I gave him a helmet. So I think those are my most beautiful moments where I can just kind of, you know, there's a Ellen DeGeneres show who has that woman Jenny, and Jenny would do all these
Yes.
off-the-fly surprises for people knocking on the door and say, you're getting a new kitchen. Those are the moments I love the most, where I pull into a gas station. I saw 3 Chayalim and they're speaking in Arabic. And I go over to them and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them the neck warmers because I have about 100 of them in the car. I'm like, I'll give them the neck warmers. And then I ask about helmets, and, you know, and he shows me a picture. He's Druze. And he says, I said, well, where's your helmet? And he takes shows me a picture of himself on the top of a tank without a helmet. He's like, well, when I can, I borrow his. And I gave him a helmet. And you just, you know, it's just these opportunities that you don't expect that you're gonna find yourself in, where you can just completely change the course of their service. For that, you know, I mean, that was 13 months in, and I was like, wow, so that's what a Kiddush Hashem looks like, to see a Druze guy in a gas station and give him a helmet. And you know, I have the slides, the pictures, if you want to.
Yeah, I can try and show them. Just
Okay.
hang on one moment.
Are you really writing a book?
You know what? I'm really horrible with that, but I did have a tour guide who told me about an app and he wants to meet with me so we can record some stories.
Okay. So
Uh,
can you see my screen?
yeah,
Okay. So do you want to tell us what's going on here?
sure.
What's
So
this first picture
here I
here?
am. That's October 8th. The first thing that I did, October 8th, I went, I hate blood, I hate needles, but I did that. And then that's my daughter. We just, in the beginning we would just go to all these smaller stores and shop for Chayalim and buy gloves and things like that.
Wow.
One of the first things I did, I bought the rights to, for those of you that are New Yorkers, New Jerseyans, for a Ringling Brothers circus. And so they had a virtual circus. And for the displaced families in a hotel in northern Netanya, I hired the medical clowns and some other, this bubble guy. And we showed the virtual circus, had popcorn and cotton candy, and that was one of the, I think that was October, November when we did
Wow.
that.
Wow.
And here are the 50 turn 90 pairs of boots.
Wow. Okay.
And so here are these Miluim Nikim serving them since the beginning. This is like a Netzach Yehuda. They're one of the Dati units, and they asked for about 24 new bags. The ones that they had since the beginning were falling apart. And they talk about emuna, and I was always of faith, a woman of faith and spirituality. But during this journey since October 7th, it's a shift from just emuna to bitachon. So what I say here, reinforcing bitachon, is I'd like to give them, just say a little words of Torah that that we're all in the right place, and it's really through the action, through this chesed, that that our faith gets stronger. And just looking at these pictures for me now, it's easy to say, why am I doing this? To sometimes want to give up, but what, to be in those moments and to be able to speak to these boys and give them that message too, that you're in the right place at the right time. And everybody behind these donations is so grateful for what you're doing for us. It's not even the thing, it's really just the being there. That's
Wow. That's amazing.
what's
Okay.
next.
And here?
This is the worst part of it all. This was a day I delivered 40 helmets to this unit. I want to say it's near and I went down there. They had no idea that they were getting helmets. It was a complete surprise. Someone from my community gave me about 80 gluten-free muffins that day, and I pull up with my kids in the car. And I said to them, I'm here with muffins. And they're all looking at me like, okay, great, let's hear the muffins. And I said, well, do you need anything else? And they're like, we really needed helmets. So I said, okay, go to the trunk and open them up. So they unloaded all the helmets. And a couple weeks later, the ones why our faces circled, 3 of those boys were killed in Gaza.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one was just at the Kerem Shalom border this past Thursday. And I laugh at it because it's, the joke that you have a Bedouin and a Christian and a Jew and me, and we're not at the bar, but these guys are at the border together. And these are the vests they're wearing. Those 3 also, I gave them helmets that day. And so they have another 11 coming to them, hopefully this week. So this is a little glimpse of Shuva on the left. This young lady, which I didn't know was a lady at the time, I kind of like I have one eye looking one way, one eye looking at the other way, and I was on the phone and I see a Hummer pull up, and she was the only one with an old, outdated helmet. So I hung up the phone and I went across the street, and she takes off the helmet and all this hair comes down. And I was like, great, come with me to my car, and gave her a brand new helmet. It just so happened that the guy on her right, I also months ago gave him a helmet. And here are me with my kids down south, just outside of Kfar Aza at the gas station, which happens to have the best schnitzel. And I catch rainbows with them. So gotta hang on to this moment.
Okay.
And so, I didn't talk about this, but I also, for over 24 weeks, have been doing weekly trips out of Netanya with Leket. So we've gone to all these farms around Israel, picking and planting. And so usually Wednesdays and Thursdays, I take a group. And so that's my self-love, because it's great to be in the dirt and giving back in that way.
Mm. And the kid does wonderful work too.
My kids are there too. They fight. And then the teacher, we just had parent-teacher conference, and they're saying, like, you cannot take your kids down south anymore. They have to come to school.
I have to learn something else besides.
Yes. And this is
Okay.
the best. This was the wellness day in Zekim. So 2 of my favorite pictures.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is our women's trip down south just last week.
Do you charge for that trip to go down south? Do you charge that for the bus or whatever?
It took me a good 2-3 weeks to plan. And I charged we had a survivor speak to us in Rayam, and I also charged for the bus.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then this is me. One of my vendors in Israel took the whole company away last week for one night to Yam HaMelech, and I have not stopped really since October 7th. And I stopped for a night and was reminded of being cared for and taking care of yourself. So
wow.
the heightened awareness tonight from
Wow. That's amazing. Okay. Great. Any other questions? Anybody else want to ask anything? No? Okay. Seagal, I'm going to be in touch with you, and maybe through Steel Sisters, we can maybe organize a trip down south at some stage.
Okay. Whoever's ready.
Yeah. And we can see how we can coordinate it. I don't know if anybody on the call would be interested in coming and would be interested in being a part of it, and maybe doing a little bit of volunteering too. Yeah, Vanessa? Okay.
Yeah.
Joanne, would you? Yeah, you would. Okay, Marianne? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll try and plan it. Angie, would you be interested?
I went down south with Ezra. Depends when you would do it because of work, so I would definitely try and see if it would work in.
Okay. All right. So we can try and see if we can. Vivian, would you be?
I just did it with Seagal.
Oh, so you know all about it. And Lisa, would
We
you be
can
interested
do
in?
something else too.
We're going to do something else. She promised.
Okay.
I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
So we can try and see. Sorry, what did you say, Lisa? You're on mute.
I'm not sure. I'll hear about the details, I'll see.
Okay, we'll put it out there. We'll put it on the Facebook group, and we'll put it also in the WhatsApp group for those who are not on the Facebook group, and let you know what we can coordinate and how we can do it, and how we can also give back in some way, and not only to give back to the country, to the soldiers, to the community as a whole, but also to help Seagal in her endeavors. And I think you are doing an incredible job. And as a mother of a soldier, even if it's just a melanemic, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, a huge thank you. Yeah.
I read
Marianne?
that book already.
I didn't hear the last. Somebody said something.
She said, write that book
Already. Wow.
It can be an ebook.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
thank you for having me tonight.
No, it's really been amazing. I think it's been incredibly interesting. And as I said, we will be putting it onto YouTube. It'll be edited and put onto YouTube shortly. So Thank you so much, Seagal, for all that
Thank
you
you, my
do
pleasure.
and for coming on tonight. It's really, really much appreciated. And ladies, thank you so much. We're almost at the end of the evening. Two things to remind you about. February the 23rd, Lisa's going to be talking. And we're looking forward to that as well. Something completely different to what we hear tonight, but something also vitally important and very interesting. And the Sunday, the 9th of February, face-to-face Bleakers in Renana, to meet and to get to know one another better, to connect, to create those friendships and to create that bond. So if you can come, please, we'd love to have you all there. All right. So please put it in your diaries now. It will be posted in the various different, on Facebook and also in the group on Facebook and on WhatsApp. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add? No? So thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was really much appreciated. And Seagal, I will be in touch about that, doing a trip together. All right?
Looking forward. Thank you. Good
Okay.
night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.